What I'd like to do today is go through some of the key ideas of the document, because it seems to me that a number of us in our very busy lives haven't really engaged with those key ideas, and they underpin the whole document. They underpin this particular textbook, and I'll talk to you about how they underpin in a moment. I'd like to talk through the achievement standard as well, and show you some learning experiences that will enable your students to achieve that achievement standard. That achievement standard informs the subject matter of all of the chapters in both series, titles in the series. And I hope that the interpretation that we've made of the document is able to show you some ways that you can deliver some updated subject matter, some new subject matter into your curriculum in your 7 to 10 HPE program. A little bit about me. I suppose I could be considered as an early adopter. I like this quote. It's about building on what we have. My advice to you is not to scrap everything that you're doing in your classroom, not everything that you're doing in your program, but think about mapping the program, your existing program, through into the Australian curriculum documents. I think that's a very good place to start. So building on the new, having those capacities is a very important part of what really is an unprecedented time in all of our careers around curriculum change in Queensland. So a little about you people. So who's had a play with the Australian curriculum as implementing? Put your hand up if you're implementing Australian curriculum. Is anyone using the achievement standard to make their judgments, assessment, evidence gathering? Hands up high, because that's a really nice way to go, and that's how we've structured the text and the learning experiences. Hands up those who are heads of department. Well done, well done. And who's an early career teacher in your school? We've got one, just one. Wonderful, welcome Kaylee. These key ideas are really important. They underpin the whole document, the Australian curriculum document. They underpin the chapters in the text. You'll notice that there are 5 of them, and I've put educative purpose at the hub of the wheel. And to me, that's a deliberate action, that everything we do in our physical education, health and physical education classroom is about an educative purpose. There must be an educative purpose to our work in the classroom. Health literacy is important. There are 3 different types of health literacy, starting off at the basic level, a functional level of health literacy, moving right through to the 3rd stage, the critical phase of the health literacy. So this picks up on the work of Nutbeam, who's done a lot of work in health promotion. But health literacy is one of the underpinning key ideas of the document as well. Of course, a health and physical education syllabus also values movement. So there's a strong emphasis on movement, and I'll be able to show you, even in the unit that we're going, or the chapter that we're going to talk about this afternoon, I'll be able to show you how we can integrate movement into those learning experiences. Critical inquiry underpins the whole syllabus as well, and that's an important aspect where our students can critically analyse the processes, the various categories of physical activity, be able to use critical health literacy as well to unpack things like media reports, videos, magazine articles. So there is a critical inquiry base there, focused on social justice issues, developing supportive environments and acknowledging diversity. The strength-based approach I've put at the top. It's probably the one that's most difficult for us to get our heads around. The strength-based approach comes again from the salutogenic model from Antonovsky in the health education area and the health promotion area. But a snapshot of a strength-based approach is that we are able to acknowledge that each of us brings a particular set of strategies and skills and qualities to our teaching and learning in physical education and health. Similarly with our students, they bring particular qualities, particular skills. And the aim of the document is actually to increase and develop and nurture those skills. So rather than having a look at a pathogenic or a disease-based model or a risk-based model, we're looking at what are the skills and strategies that we have at the moment and how can we build on those. And you'll see that through each of the textbooks. You'll see that flavour coming through very strongly. It does take some time to get our head around it because it actually flips a lot of the models that we've used previously. So it's a really good opportunity for us to think about how we might best implement the strength-based approach in our documents. In your little sample bag, we've got a chapter of page proofs of chapter 9. And I want to show you some of the features of the text and some of the aspects of the text design that we've put into both the 7-8 and the 9-10 text titles. So if you look at the front cover, this front cover is repeated right through the Year 7 document, right through the Year 8 document, right through the 9 and the 10. So every particular chapter has this framework. I just want to unpack a little bit about it to start with. First of all, I've always argued that a quality textbook matches and is linked to a quality curriculum document. The achievement standard is an important aspect around our teaching and learning, and it should be, according to the QCAA's advice, the focus of our assessment, gathering evidence, making judgments around this achievement standard. Now, the Australian curriculum document in Health and PE is banded. In other words, it's over Year 9 and 10. So by the end of Year 10, our students should be achieving these particular points. I'll just give you a couple of minutes to read through that. So the writers, and we managed to put a team together from every state in Australia across a whole range of learning areas and expertise. So we had upper primary teachers, we had faith-based teachers, we had university lecturers, we had heads of department across the states of Australia. And this is one of the strengths that we were able to capture the perspectives of all of that diverse range of writers. So, as you're aware, the Australian curriculum has a series of about 18 or 19 content descriptors, depending on which version of the Australian curriculum that you're using. So 7 point whatever it was, 7.5 I think, and then 8.1 is the latest version. This particular text is written to the latest version. So it's written to 8.1. So this part up here is called the content descriptor. It's also given a label. These 1, 2, 3, 4 different points are called elaborations. And they're designed to give you an idea of the sorts of activities and the sorts of learning experiences that you might develop to implement this particular content descriptor. This particular content descriptor has a strong relationship to the achievement standard as well. So at the start of each chapter on that front page, you'll notice that we've highlighted the content descriptor. So it's featured there, ACPPS 097, and then alongside it is the whole achievement standard. And what we've done is that we've highlighted where the subject matter is being addressed in the chapter. So this will be able to give you an opportunity to check if you're thinking about the achievement standard and the sort of evidence that you're going to gather, then this will be a good checkpoint for you. A useful checkpoint for you in your mapping. So the highlighted areas are where the subject matter is being addressed in the document, in the chapter. Each chapter deals with a content descriptor. So every chapter deals with one content descriptor. And the writers have tried to develop each of the elaborations to show you and present you with some particular ideas, some different ideas about how we might deliver learning experiences that address that content descriptor and meet the achievement standard. So we've got a really strong alignment right through 7, 8, 9 and 10. The title of this particular chapter is Country, Place and Physical Activity. It informs the subject matter of chapter 9. There's the content descriptor there. On the front page of every chapter, there's also a section called Organise Your Thinking. And Organise Your Thinking just gives a bit of an overview of the chapter. So the association with the natural environment is enhanced through physical activity. Once again, we're showing how physical activity might be integrated with the other strand. Our engagement with the local environment creates connections between each other as well as the natural and built environments. And the final part is that we share a custodial responsibility to sustain country and place. The Making Connections section is teasing out of each of the elaborations. So if you have a look at the text in the Making Connections box and have a look at the text from the Australian curriculum, then we've got a strong alignment there. So the writers were also very keen to see this integration between the two strands, and that's what we've tried to do wherever possible in the document as well. And back to the achievement standard. So having a quick scan through the chapter and the sorts of subject matter that's in the chapter, the sorts of learning experiences that are advocated there, you can see the links to the achievement standard. Let's go back to that front cover again. So in the achievement standard, the particular subject matter of this chapter works around students accessing, synthesising and applying health information from credible sources to propose and justify responses to health situations. Students propose and evaluate interventions to improve fitness and physical activity levels in their own communities. They examine the role physical activity has played historically in defining cultures and cultural identities. And then into the next section that looks at movement and physical activity, our students have the opportunity to apply decision-making and problem-solving skills when taking action to enhance their own and others' health, safety and well-being. So you can get the flavour of this particular chapter by looking at the front page of the chapter. One of the important features of the text are a whole series of graphic organisers that we've tried to develop in conjunction with the written and spoken word. So we know that engagement in physical activity is interrelated between three different aspects or three different determinants. So we've got our own individual determinants, our likes and our dislikes, the sorts of things that we enjoy doing and the sorts of things we don't enjoy doing. They interact with our social and environmental determinants, so our friends engaging in physical activity with us, the environmental constraints of physical activity that are placed on us. And then the relationship is complemented by the built and the natural environments. So the built environment, particularly things like buildings, other structures in the community. The natural environment might be the parklands in our area in southeast Queensland, the bushland areas that surround Brisbane. So those three determinants interact with each other and determine our role in physical activity and our engagement. Diagrammatically, our well-being is impacted by a whole range of layers. And there's explanatory text that surrounds each of these particular graphic organisers. One of the other important points and features in each of the chapters is that there are a number of cross-curricular links. This particular link in this particular chapter is related to the humanities and social sciences. But you might see in another chapter, perhaps a chapter on biomechanics, mathematics and physical education, health and PE link. A link between health and PE and science. So this looks at a range of issues from the humanities and social sciences and helps to develop learning in one particular context against learning in another particular context. We spent some time doing some research around each of the learning experiences, and we came up with the phrase deep learning to describe each of the activities in the text. And I'd like to talk a little bit now about why we're using deep learning. First of all, it gives our students an opportunity to relate new ideas and concepts with previous knowledge that they might have picked up through year 7 and 8. So there's a strong integration between 7 and 8. There's a strong connection between 7 and 8 because we're using achievement standards at 7 and 8 into the 9 and 10 achievement standards. We're using content descriptors that also have an alignment through the curriculum. So it gives students opportunity to revisit more complex learnings from year 7 and 8 into year 9 and 10. So new ideas and new concepts being developed and linking that with previous knowledge. It gives the opportunities for our learners as well to interrelate their learning between different concepts. It helps our students look for underlying patterns and underlying principles. It gives them an opportunity to evaluate new ideas that they might have discovered in their learning. And it gives our students an opportunity to reflect on their own learning. So if you have a look at perhaps the Deep Learning 9.2 task, 9.3. So here's a nice little learning experience that will provide opportunities for that deep learning that I've just talked about, where our students are planning and creating a significant cultural celebration which is trying to encourage physical activity in the school community. In the planning phase, they need to be considering a number of different pertinent points that are going to assist them to develop their festival. The term cultural competence is also featured in a glossary of terms. The cultural competence you'll see highlighted in the right-hand or left-hand margin, and that's contained in a glossary where those definitions are also explained, and they're highlighted in the text as well. And then there's some celebration after the event where the opportunity for students to evaluate that particular cultural celebration occurs, and how that's developed the sense of connection to them, their peers within the school community. And then students are asked to justify how that sense of belonging is achieved. So that's a snapshot of one of the deep learning tasks. I want to talk a little bit now about the Indigenous relationship with the land. During my research, I have a number of Indigenous colleagues, and I was talking to one of them. She was telling me that Indigenous people have a different view of the world. They have a different view of the relationship to the land. Indigenous people live with the land, whereas we tend to look at the land as being something that we can live off. And that's a really subtle distinction, living with the land, living off the land. So this connection to country is very complex in Indigenous communities and Indigenous nations. So the graphic organiser is just trying to tease out that complex connection. In each of the different versions, the print version has particular case studies, and we'll have a look at one of those now. So in the case study for Chapter 9, there's a section on nature play. Nature play is based in Queensland. They also have a base in Western Australia and I think in Victoria. So, South Australia, sorry. The agency provides resources for parents and schools and researchers to enable the development of outdoor play. There's a downloadable worksheet that students can download 49 things to do before you're 5. Now we're dealing with 14-year-old, 15-year-old students, so we've changed that to be 60 things you need to do before you're 16. It's almost like the bucket list. So look at the built environment, look at the natural environment that's around you, and think about 60 active, physically active activities that you can be involved with. Create that list of 60 physical activities and challenges, and then participate in and complete that list. There's the download. So there are 49 things you're going to do before you're 5 years old. Let's do 60 things before we're 16. The interactive text, and I think there's a version of the interactive text on the website at the moment that's live. There's just a little snippet there. So there's a particular hyperlink that you click on in the interactive version, and this particular Indigenous artwork comes up. And this struck me as a pretty significant piece. So let's have a look at it. All around the outside are the various native flora that are found in that particular community. This area in here is the bushland. You can see people playing AFL. You can see people playing cricket. You can see people walking. You can see people shooting hoops. In Indigenous artwork, these are footprints. This is a nice way we can see footprints around the outside as well. This is a good place to walk. So the students have a look at this particular image. Up comes the background to that particular image. I'll give you an opportunity to read through that. So we've tapped into some research from the Menzies School of Health Research in the Northern Territory. So this is an Indigenous person's perspective of physical activity and health in a very remote community. But it shows that complex connection between country and physical activity. It's interesting that the artist saw the bush as an active, healthy place and her community as an inactive and unhealthy place. Really interesting relationship between country and physical activity. So the painting was developed to show that integration and to show that connection. That draws my presentation to a close. Do we have any questions?